Welcome, everyone, and welcome to Executives in Tech. My name is Catherine Joffrey. I'm with MavenX, as this event is powered by MavenX, your ServiceNow expert. But this series will focus on experts in the technology arena all across the globe. And today we are so excited to introduce, and I'm super excited, one of my personal good friends, Noor Akbari. So Noor, hello and welcome to Executives in Technology. How are you?
Thank you very much, Catherine. Really appreciate you inviting me and excited to be here.
We're so excited to have you. And honestly, this one, as I've mentioned now a few times, I'm so excited to have Noor on. His story is phenomenal, and I really do believe that so many of you will also find the inspiration that he's been blessed to share with all of us and share with me his story about how he's not only overcame adversity, but also found success. And I think we can actually start there, Noor. So some of the success that you found here recently is that you started a company. It's been what, about 5 years now? When did Roslyn come to fruition?
The initial one, since 2011 was the first language testing company that I founded. So a few years.
Few years now. It's fantastic. So why don't we start there? When you started Roslyn, how did you start Roslyn, and where did this idea come from for you to really join the entrepreneurial profession?
Yeah. As you know, we worked together in Mission Essential. And then I moved on to the testing area where I was managing the language testing department. And as you know, we were testing a lot of people around the world. And one of the problems was how do we proctor those exams? You know, we were paying them $210,000 a year. They were very motivated to cheat, to pass the exam. So how do we ensure the integrity of the exam? And so at that point, some of our vendors didn't do a very good job. So I went to the president and said, what if I solve this problem for you? What if I build a company and tackle this for you? And he agreed. So I left Mission Essential, went to Virginia, founded a language assessment company. So Mission Essential became our first client. But even with my company, we used Skype and other tools, but still was not a very scalable process. It was we had to hire a lot of people to watch people take tests, which was expensive. So I started building a tool to use to automate this process. So I was in India and related to my other company at Revex Medical, and I had access to some developers. I was like, let's build a tool that would automate this process. So we built something that wasn't very great at the beginning. It was doing a couple of simple things, you know, delivering a recorded question, recording the answer, and recording this entire process using the webcam. So we would then watch the webcam to see whether somebody's cheating. That worked really well. I mean, customers became very happy. You know, scheduling went away. It worked really well. But then I started looking at elsewhere in e-learning and higher education to see what people are doing about this problem. So there was nothing, it was test centers, it was in-person testing, but there was no scalable technological remote solution. So I continued to work on that product, and then evolved it until I met my co-founder, Martin, who is a Swedish engineer, former Microsoft research manager. So I was like, okay, how can we use AI to automate this process? And he joined us, and we began building what's now Roslyn. So at that point, it was still an internal tool, but then once we created the proof of concept that yes, the AI and computer vision can do the job better than a human watching people from remote. Then at that point, we pivoted from a language testing company to a technology company, and then went to San Francisco, got accepted into a Accelerator Program called Alchemist, and they invested in us. So from that point on, we became a SaaS company fully focused on the product that's now Roslyn.
That's wonderful. So just a little bit background. as you mentioned, you and I work together at Mission Essential. So at Mission Essential, we are basically providing linguists to go overseas, right, with the Department of Defense. So you were able to really zone in and all those tests that were being proctored and streamline that process. So not only did you streamline that process, but then you built your company on that streamlined process and then took it to a step further and put AI on top of that streamlined process. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So you did all of this. So you did all this. And then at that point, you went over to San Francisco, and that's where you were able to do this program, which really was that accelerator. Can you tell us a little bit more about this accelerator program?
Yeah. So this accelerator program really helped us. It's a program where it's supported by venture capitalists and companies like Salesforce and Google, where they look for very, very promising companies around the world, and they interview. What's that?
Which yours was a very promising company. Here you were able to streamline a process the Department of Defense hadn't even considered yet. So that's fantastic. Okay, so go on.
So they looked at about 800 companies and they picked 24, and we were fortunate enough to be one of those 24 companies. So when you are running a traditional business, your thought process is focused on profit. How do I make money and add to the bottom line? But when you come into the startup world, the mindset completely is different. So what these accelerators are focused on is, preparing you to build $1 billion business. So they teach you all the things that you need to know, but also on a very disciplined way, pushes you to go get customers, to think about go to market, to think about how you can develop your idea into $1 billion idea, validate it, and so on. So those are some of the very valuable things that they provided to us. And with that program, in that 6 months, we were able to switch markets, focus on a new market, acquire a couple of some of the largest customers. Companies like Red Hat and Google, and then go out and raise funds. So without a program like that, it's very, very hard for a first-time founder. Although I'm not a first-time founder, but the first time that I'm a founder of a startup, it's very hard to do it without a program like that. So that was very, very helpful for us.
Oh, that's wonderful. So congratulations. Like you said, only 24 made it to that final stage, correct?
Yep.
24 companies, and you were one of the 24. So I heard a lot of cool things that were happening, right? They were able to help you pivot markets. They were able to put you with companies like Red Hat, Google, and not to mention raise funds. Now, not all of us entrepreneurs can go through an accelerated like so. Is there like one or two tidbits of information that you could share with our listeners right now that you learned from going through the accelerator that we could maybe apply, or an entrepreneur could apply as they're going through this process?
Yeah. So one of the what they're looking for, just to give you a little background, is for companies, as I mentioned, to have the potential to build a unicorn, a $1 billion business. So what they're looking for is, are you solving an important problem, a problem that people would be willing to pay for? Is this problem, big enough? Is there a big market? Is there a large number of companies having this problem and they're willing to pay for it? Are you the team to take it to that level? So they look at, and as your solution makes sense, is it solving that problem? So they're looking at all of those areas, and then they select you based on that. So and then they further, the 6 months is focused on further polishing that go-to-market, that business model, your team, your target market, all of that. They with continuous mentorship and engagement, it gets you to the point where you are thinking in startup terms. You're not worried about profit. You're not worried about burning cash. You're worried about one thing, and that is growth. So the lessons are just, it just puts you in the right direction to build a startup. So a lot of lessons learned, in the way you think about all of these things. You can't possibly be exposed to something like that if you're a first-time founder or a businessman that hasn't been focused on building a SaaS product. So it teaches you all the things you need to know and prepare you for to go out and build a company. So.
That's wonderful. And I was just taking a few notes there, but the biggest things I heard, as you said, as you're going on this journey, what entrepreneurs really need to think about is, first, are you solving a problem, right? Yeah. We all have these great ideas, but what problem are you solving? And then if there is a problem, does someone want to pay for that problem? Like that you came up with a solution. Will they pay for that solution, right? So you've solved a problem. Will someone pay for the solution? And then last thing is, are you the team? And I think that one has to be a hard one to swallow, but it sounds like you obviously had the right team at that point. So you come back from this accelerator, you had the team and everything. How do you go from that to what I just read about in, Columbus CEO and a few other places? You just got awarded $2.2 million, right?
Yep.
How does that happen? Can you walk us through that story?
Yeah. So once we went through the program, we started fundraising. So one of the things that the Alchemist Accelerator gave us was access to a lot of investors. So I pitched to about 140 investors at that time. And some got interested, some and almost invested, but didn't end up. We got some investment. But it was a process where you go and you meet, with 3 to 4 investors every day. You drive from San Francisco to San Jose and back and forth. So a lot of no's, a lot of feedback that is sometimes discouraging. But we went through that process. Couldn't raise a significant amount of money, but we did raise enough to keep going. But then COVID happened, and COVID basically explained our value proposition, our business model to both customers and investors. And so before. Only forward-thinking companies would say, yes, this is a great solution. We need to move forward with. But the other companies would say, yes, this is the future. Yes, I'm going to save a lot of money with it, but it is risky. It's AI. I don't understand AI. All of those things. But once COVID hit the world, it basically introduced them to a reality that they weren't really thinking about. So all of a sudden, everybody was remote. All of a sudden, everybody needed to study remote, take test remote, and all of our competitors basically got shut down because a lot of their human proctors were stationed in India and other places, and they had to shut down. So for like 2 months, nobody were able to deliver proctored exams. So that was a time when all of these big companies came and started knocking on our doors. So at that point, we seized the opportunity. We went out and met with some 20 investors, and we ended up getting 2 term sheets. And one of the biggest companies in higher education, a company called Coursera, is one of our investors. And they're also rolling out our product to 5,000 of their university partners in the next few months. So,
congratulations, Noor. That's fantastic. It's wonderful to hear. So now you're rolling it out across the board. This is going to solve a lot of problems, I would assume, from the educational standpoint, so students can actually take the exams in the comfort of their own home, especially as you mentioned with COVID. But even at the business level, as people are going through exams, new licensing, all of that stuff, it can all be done at the comfort of their home, and it's that guarantee that there is no cheating going on.
It's no cheating, and also there's no human watching you, so there's no anxiety, there's no scheduling, there's none of those things that come with a human solution like that. So it's on demand, it's scalable, it works in low bandwidth environments. You can deliver exams. We have been delivering exams in Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, and all of those places where internet is a challenge. So yeah, it's a pretty scalable solution.
That's wonderful. I mean, I love how you brought it up. There's just more than just obviously no cheating. It's also the idea that there is not a human. the element of anxiety with the human standing. I mean, there's so much more that you're able to provide to the end user by making everything remote and from the comfort of their own home.
Yep.
That's exciting. Well, thank you for sharing that story. I also want to dive into a little bit about your personal story, if you're okay with that as well. It's one of my favorite, as you know. But I would also just kind of ask you if you could maybe share with us, why don't we start in the beginning, right? So how did you come to the U.S. and find yourself here and working at Mission Essential, where we finally got to meet? So how does that happen?
So in Afghanistan, I initially built a printing shop in my early, teenage years. I knew, I was one of the handful of people in Afghanistan who could work with a computer, and that was thanks to my mother who bought me a computer very early on. Initially, the purpose was for me to watch movies in it, but but that I still taught. I taught myself, PowerPoint, Word, and stuff like that. So I built a printing company that used computer for the first time instead of a calligrapher, right? So that made things very easy, and frankly, made everything much more prettier as well, because with all those nice fonts that was available at the time. So ended up selling that company and joining the U.S. military, and as a translator, and then worked as a writer for a magazine that was funded by the U.S. And then later on, my boss came to Kabul, and he brought me with him, and I ended up working as a cultural advisor for the U.S. military leadership there. So at that point, got a special immigration visa because of all the threats that was posed at that time, and I came to the United States in 2007. So spent 6 months in Nebraska, and then got a job with Mission Essential. Our boss, David Slovenia, reached out to me, and then ended up here in Columbus. So.
And I think it's amazing because you took such an opportunity, right? Your mother gave you a computer for you to watch movies, essentially. But you took that and then you grew from that. And I feel like that's a mentality you've woven throughout your entire journey, right? So you took one thing and then you grow it. Then you get one more thing and then you grow it. I feel like this is the journey that I keep seeing as you continue to grow your company, even with, you first had the company and you went and you won the Accelerator, one of 24. Got that started in San Francisco, took it back here. Now you've won $2.2 million for your company as well, and now you're growing that. Where do you see, how are you going to continue to grow this company, and how are you staying relevant right now with AI? I would imagine that the market has other companies coming in and competition is growing. Is that happening?
Yeah, we were fortunate enough to think about this very early on. We're the first company to think about it. To think about AI being a solution. So we have been building it for the last 4 years. It's a tough product to build because it's a very complicated problem to solve. So we have been working on it for a long time, and now we are 3 or 4 years ahead of every other competitor. Is their whole business model is built around humans watching you either remotely, or there are test center companies where they have thousands of test centers, and you go to a test center and you take an exam there. So for them to move in this direction, it will take them 3 to 4 years to get where we are. So now we are able to offer cheaper prices, lower prices, and offer all the other benefits. So that's why companies like Coursera is going to scale our solution to 5,000 universities around the world. So we are looking at a very exciting year ahead of us. We expect a lot of growth, and we are building a team to make this company a $1 billion company. So
congratulations. one last question, and then we'll turn it over to our listeners. And if they have any questions, please go ahead and drop those in the chat box. But the last question is, what advice would you give entrepreneurs that are either interested in going on with this entrepreneurial journey or even going into tech? What advice would you give young people right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, if you have a great idea and you're an entrepreneur, just go for it. Just do it. Right.
Right.
But then have, the humility to change your mind, change your ideas. Don't be married to your ideas, right? New information is going to come. And although you're very smart, but you don't know everything. So be open to changing your mind. We have changed our business model like more than 10 times over the last, 3 to 4 years, from everything. It's no longer, if I look back at what our initial thinking was, it's completely different. So be able, just change, with new information, be open to accepting new ideas, and then go get into one of these accelerators, because you can't do it alone. If you're a first-time founder, you need to know so much, and alone, it's very hard to do it. If you can't get into accelerators, get great mentors, and that will help you a lot. So from that, once you have those in place, then there's a matter of failing and then getting back up and getting at it again, and then repeating that process. You're going to fail a lot. You're going to make a lot of mistakes. You're going to learn from it. And then at that point, you need to be resilient. You need to be resilient to get back up, because you're going to fail and you're going to fall a lot. So
it sounds like resilience is key for one. There's going to be a lot of failure, but it's that idea that you're going to get back up with humility, because at some point, hopefully you will have success, as you have, but you got to keep going is what I'm hearing.
Absolutely.
Okay. That's some really good advice across all boards, no matter if you're starting your own company, if you're in a day-to-day job, whatever it is, just there's going to be failure. But when you have success, remember the humility, right? It's that balance.
Absolutely.
I love that. Thank you for sharing, Noor. That's fantastic. Well, I want to say thank you. I'm looking at to see if we have any questions real quick come through. It looks like we do have one more question. So, Noor, just out of curiosity, hold on, let me see if I can pull it back up here. Oh, here's it. Where did your name originate? So Rosalind, how did the Rosalind name come to fruition?
Yeah, we named it after Rosalind Franklin. Rosalind Franklin was a Nobel Prize winner who contributed significantly to the structure of DNA, and then she was cheated out of her Nobel Peace Prize. So we kind of thought that would be. It would be great to honor her, because she was, cheated out of what she deserved. So Rosalind come from that.
That's beautiful. And now she's ever remembered through your company, which is being ever so successful. So what a way to be remembered. That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing. And I think we've got the last one here. Here we go. What is one of your favorite entrepreneurial wins?
Favorite entrepreneurial wins? Fundraising has got to be the top one. It's one of the hardest things I have ever done. Going through and meeting with people and hearing a lot of no's. Imagine 140 meetings, and out of 140 meetings, only 2 said yes, right? So there were a lot of no's, and it's very stressful. It's discouraging. You think multiple times, am I in the right business? Is this going to work? Right. So I think fundraising was one of the biggest wins, for me. And the early on, again, getting into that accelerator was a big win for me. It was life-changing. So.
Awesome. And obviously this didn't come without some failure throughout the way. So for everyone listening.
Yeah, over the last 3 years, we got close to crashing and burning multiple times. We lost large numbers of our revenue at one point, where we were pretty close to running out of money, and then an investment came, and so multiple times we were pretty close to failure. But we're here. So
You're obviously resilient.
yeah.
So you guys have the resiliency. Well, I really appreciate, Noor, you taking the time to join us today to be on Executives in Tech, but also to share your story with us. It's such a beautiful story from the personal, professional level. It's just gorgeous. I hope everyone was able to pull something from it, a little bit of insight. The one thing I know I'm going to take away is resiliency, that sometimes we all fail and that's okay. And just to keep going, because eventually you're going to hit success. But then on the other side, when you do hit success, Noor, as you said, we've got to keep humility, right? It's that, again, that balance that we're all ever doing. So thank you so much. Thank you to our listeners for joining in. It was great. We hope you check us back out. We'll be here again in 2 weeks with another speaker. But Noor, it was so wonderful to have you today. As I mentioned, this is recorded. So we will send out everyone a recording of this so you have it, and it will be out there for your use. Then you can share it with whomever you would like. And then also, Noor, if it's okay with you, I'll share your information with everyone on as well. So if they have questions, feel free to reach out to Noor. I think Olga, obviously, you might want to reach out to Noor too. So we'll make sure that happens. And again, Noor, thank you so much for your time, and have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thank you, Catherine, for inviting me.
Of course. Thank you, Noor. Bye.